King Chijioke walked restlessly across the royal chambers, his anger rising with each step. His first wife, Adaeze, sat quietly in the corner, her eyes lowered to the floor. She was heavily pregnant, but there had been no sign of the birth coming. Despite months of waiting, Chijioke's patience had grown thin. He had married Adaeze with hopes of securing his heir, but now it seems as though the child would never come. His frustration grew with each passing day, and the words of his advisor echoed in his mind, urging him to act quickly before the kingdom began to question his ability to rule. "You are cursed," Chijioke said, his voice screaming with bitterness. "What have you brought upon me, Adaeze? I married you, expecting a son, an heir to sit on the throne. But now look at you. Your belly keeps growing, yet there is no child inside. This is witchcraft, isn't it? A curse from your family. You should have told me. You knew this would happen, didn't you?" He turned away from her, his face twisted with rage. Adaeze trembled, but said nothing. She had carried the weight of his harsh words for months, and her heart broke each time he accused her. She had no explanation, no magical remedy to offer. The child inside her refused to come, and with each passing day, the tension in the palace thickened. But Chijioke wasn't willing to accept that perhaps the problem wasn't hers, it was his. "How could I have been so foolish?" Chijioke continued, pacing again, his voice rising. "I married you because I thought you would give me a son, a rightful heir, but you have failed me. You have cursed my kingdom, my bloodline. I should have never taken you in as my wife. You should have told me you were barren, that you were cursed from the beginning. Now look at this disaster you have brought me." He slammed his fist against the wall, the sound echoing through the chamber. There's heart sank. She had tried everything. She had prayed, she had visited healers, and yet nothing worked. But Chijioke's words were sharper than any knife. She knew that the palace whispers were growing louder. If she didn't give birth soon, her position in the palace, or perhaps her life, would be at risk. "I will find another wife," Chijioke muttered under his breath, with a cold look in his eyes. "One who will bear me a child. I will not sit idly by and let you ruin everything. If you cannot give me what I need, I will seek it elsewhere." Chijioke did not waste time. Within weeks, he had married a second wife, Chinonso, a beautiful woman from a neighboring village. She was young, vibrant, and eager to prove herself to the king. But despite the new hope he placed in her, the same curse seems to follow him. Chinonso became pregnant quickly, but once again, 9 months passed without a child. Chijioke's anger grew even more intense. His once hopeful demeanor had turned into frustration and impatience. He began to lash out at everyone around him, accusing his wives of bringing misfortune upon him. He couldn't fathom that the problem might lie with him, or that there would be another force at play. He had to have an heir, and he believed that he would have one no matter the cost. "You! Yes, you! What is wrong with you?" Chijioke shouted one evening, standing over Chinonso. "I have given you everything, the finest food, the best healer, but still no child. You are as cursed as Adaeze. I see it now. You have failed me just as she did. Why have you come into my life, bringing only shame?" He turned away, his frustration reaching a breakpoint. "Why couldn't you be like the woman of my ancestors, who give birth to children as soon as they are married?" Chinonso, who had thought she would bring some joy to the king's life, was crushed. Her hopes of securing her place in the palace were slipping through her fingers. Like Adaeze, she had no answers, and the king's cruelty grew worse than any cause. She could feel the weight of his disapproval growing heavily every day. But Chijioke did not rest. He could not afford to waste any more time. His kingdom was watching, his subjects whispering. He could feel his reign being threatened with each passing day that he failed to produce an heir. In his eyes, there was only one solution: marry again. 2 more wives were brought to Chijioke's palace in quick succession, Ebere, a noble woman from the south, and Ngozi, a young beauty who had caught the king's eyes during one of his royal tours. Each time, Chijioke's expectations were high. Each time, the pregnancy grew longer without any sign of delivery. By now, Chijioke had become a shadow of the king he once was. His face was hardened with anger, his eyes soaking from sleepless nights spent plotting how to solve his childless dilemma. His wives had begun to speak in whispers, afraid to cross him, afraid to do anything that might anger him further. It was as though the very wall of the palace were closing in on him. Why won't you give me a son? What have I done to deserve this? He shouted one evening, staring at his wives gathered before him. You are all cursed, all of you. I have given you my wealth, my love, my kingdom, and yet none of you can give me a child. What is wrong with me? Why can't I have an heir? He slammed his fist on the table, the anger in his eyes reflecting his inner torture. His wives, each of them in various stages of pregnancy, could do nothing but bow their heads in silence. The palace had grown tense, and the once celebrated king was now a man driven by desperation and rage. Chijioke did not know what to do, but the whispers of his career were getting louder. What if it wasn't the women? What if it was him? But in his heart, Chijioke refused to believe that the problem was from him. He continued to take more wives, believing that one day one of them would give birth to a child for him. One night, Chijioke received a visit from an old seer. The woman, wise and ancient, looked at him with pity. The problem is not with your wives, she said softly. It is with you. Your brother's spirit has cursed you for your wrongdoing. You will never have an heir. Chijioke froze, his heart racing. The word hit him harder than any of his wife's failure. What do you mean? What cause? The seer eyes darkened. Your brother's spirit will not allow you to have an heir because of the evil you have done. No matter how many wives you take, no child will survive. You must make things right or you will lose everything. Chijioke was shocked. He had never considered that his own actions would bring such a curse. His quest for power had blinded him to the consequences of his greed. Chijioke's desperation for an heir didn't begin with his wives. It was rooted in a deep, dark secret that weighed heavily on his soul. Years before he became a king, when his brother, King Chukwuma, had suddenly fallen ill and passed away, Chijioke was placed as a stand-in. The kingdom had expected Chukwuma's unborn child, still growing inside his wife, to inherit the throne, but Chijioke, driven by ambition and greed, could not allow that. As the king's brother, Chijioke was meant to protect the unborn child, ensuring the rightful heir would sit on the throne, but fear of being overshadowed by his brother's legacy consumed him. In a cruel act of treachery, he ordered the death of his brother's pregnant wife, hoping to ensure the child never survived. Chijioke's heart hardened as he watched her life slip away. The life of his nephew, a potential threat to his throne, snuffed out. And in the shadows of his actions, he believed he had secured his position, but what Chijioke didn't know was that as his brother's wife died, a powerful curse was placed upon him. Now, the woman continued, the curse you set in motion when you killed your brother's wife and child will never be undone. She said gravely, you are bound to it now. No child you father will survive. This is the price you pay for your ambition, for taking what was not yours. The words struck Chijioke like a blow. He had been so consumed by greed, by his desire for power, that he never saw the true cause of his actions. His brother's spirit had extracted a harsh punishment on him, and no amount of wealth, wife, or title would change it. Tears filled Chijioke's eyes, not from sorrow, but from the weight of his guilt. He had destroyed his future with his own hands, and now the curse would consume him. His throne was not his to claim, and no matter how hard he tried, he would never escape the consequences of his past. The end. If you like this tale, let us know what lesson you learned from this story, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and turn on your notification bell for more stories. Thank you for watching.